for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
Oh, yeah!
and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a
Here's Josh Hennig.
Welcome into another edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. As always, you can join the conversation. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up in about 20 minutes from now, we will be joined by the Athletics' Chris Vannini. We'll talk more about the college football weekend as we got a huge triple header tomorrow on our radio right here on 97.3 ESPN. We will get to all those details in just a bit, but we will also get to the latest Eagles injury report. And there's some good news on the report, and there's some what to watch for news with the report as we get closer to Monday night's game. Eagles, Bucks, Monday Night Football. Of course, you hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. So, before we get to the text board, before we get to the college football talk, before we even do anything else, we got to get you the latest with the Eagles injury report. And as I told you guys yesterday here on the show, for me, when I look at the injury report, I was curious to find out exactly what the progress was for some of these guys. And you're already seeing some of those limited participation labels get flipped to full participation. So a couple guys that we talked about yesterday who we were interested to see how quickly they would flip the script on them. Well, they've already flipped that script because today, Reed Blankenship, James Bradbury, Fletcher Cox, Kenny Gainwell, all those guys, all four are listed as full participants. So no more worrying about if arguably, what is that, three of your defensive starters and then one of your offensive weapons is available for Monday night. They are all set and ready to go. And this is a huge deal because no matter who lines up in the slot, you want to make sure the rest of your defense around those guys is ready to go. And, you know, with Bradbury coming out of the concussion protocol, you certainly feel a lot better about the Eagles secondary with him and Blankenship back there. Not because Blankenship is one of the best safeties in the league or because Bradbury is going to completely change the outcome of this game, but because both of those guys are huge keys in the execution of what the Eagles want to do defensively. So when you're able to execute the type of defense you want to run, you're more likely to win the game. It's a very simple formula. And I think that it was very obvious last week that Josh Jobe and Mario Goodrich, they did their best, but they were not 100% ready for the challenge that was the Minnesota Vikings offense. And now you got to go up against a Bucks offense that is also looking pretty good right now. I know the Bucks are not one of the best teams in the NFL at this point, but look, they're 2-0, and a lot of their offense has been through the air, specifically Mike Evans. Mike Evans had a ridiculous year already, just a short amount of time. Baker Mayfield at 490 passing yards. So you know that this team is not afraid to throw the ball. Their running game is not that great, but their passing game definitely has some firepower. And don't overlook the fact that while the Eagles offense has started out a little slowly this year, the Tampa Bay Bucks are top 10 passing offense in the NFL. So if you are a high-level passing offense, the likelihood is that you want to make sure if you're the Eagles that Bradbury and Blankenship are both out there and ready to go on the defensive end of the ball. Because again, when you're challenging look, I know Baker Mayfield is not one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he's played a lot better than some of these so-called experts try to project he was going to play. And I've been telling you guys for weeks before the season here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See, I'm Josh Hennig. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. I told you all that I knew that Tampa was going to hit the over 6.5 this year because this was a team that was not, as long as they were healthy, was not going to be as bad as they were last year because a majority of their problems last season were because of injuries. So now you're coming into this season with a team, with a roster that is healthier than last year. And you're not asking Baker Mayfield to be Tom Brady. You're asking Baker Mayfield to just not mess it up. And so far, Baker has done his job. Baker has got the ball. And Mike Evans, I don't know if Mike Evans is playing well because he's trying to prove a point about his next contract, or Mike Evans is playing well because he's got Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball, and Baker Mayfield is certainly a better quarterback than Kyle Trask is. But Mike Evans has become very dangerous. And you just saw last week when a motivated receiver goes against the Eagles, Justin Jefferson, they can have a good game. If Mike Evans wants to have a big game, it might be a big game. So you got to limit the other receivers and not overfocus on one guy beating you. Chris Godwin is a phenomenally talented receiver. So with Evans and Godwin attacking you, you need Bradbury out there. You need Blankenship out there at safety. And that's how I'm looking at the positive from this injury report. Now, the other part of the injury report that is interesting, Quez Watkins is still did not practice with what they're labeling as a hamstring. If Quez Watkins is unable to go, now you're changing a dynamic aspect of your offense. You're changing your offense from this offense loves to be mix and match, right? And they like to be mix and match. I think that not having Watkins changes part of your ability to take off the top of a defense. And not being able to take the top off the defense means that now you're asking a guy in Zacchaeus to be more of a space operator and less of a over-the-top operator. And I think that is where the big part is. The big part of this is when you have a situation like Zacchaeus on the field instead of Watkins, you know the defense already is aware that you're not going to go with as many deep routes as you would otherwise. But I thought that this might be a blessing in disguise because Jason Kelsey was on the New Heights podcast with him and his brother Travis. And Jason explained what defenses are doing against the Eagles. And maybe not having Watkins might be a good thing for now. Take a listen.
A lot of deep zone coverage, trying to prevent the big play, giving us boxes that were conducive for inside zone, and we kept running it. And I think their clear effort right now, and it was the same way in week one, is prevent the big plays. Don't let AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts hurt you down the field. Make them put together long drives. And I think that we ended up figuring it out throughout the game. That's what you want to do.
So if teams are already trying to stop you from going deep, if teams are already trying to prevent you from doing that, then you already have a scenario. You already have an opportunity. You already have a set of circumstances that are going to allow you to say, you know what, Quez Watkins, it's okay if we don't have him for this week because we're going to try to beat the Bucs in a different way. Because you know that Todd Bowles, a defensive-minded coach, is already going out there and trying to see, how can I slow the Eagles offense down? Well, I saw that the Patriots and the Vikings did this. What can I do differently? Because For as much as the Patriots and the Vikings defense, tried to stop the Eagles, as Jason Kelsey explains, the Eagles are making better in-game adjustments now.
First game, I don't think we adjusted throughout the game as a team and executed as a team. We were too inconsistent, too mistake friendly. This game, it felt like, even when we were kind of struggling early on, it felt like everybody was on the same page, like it was only a matter of time. And then once it started clicking, it started clicking. I mean, even at the end of the game, I know it ended up being close, but we had a couple big long touchdown passes called back. We had one that wasn't a pass interference that was missed on AJ. So, I mean, I think that we really got into a rhythm there and adjusted well throughout the game and started getting something going, which was fun to do offensively.
Text board is open, 609-403-0973 for you to jump in on the conversation. So, no Quez Watkins means more Olamide Zaccheaus coming out of the slot. Probably means a little more work for the running backs, and that's where Gainwell probably comes in. I was telling you guys earlier this week, I want to see Swift on first and second down, and they will put Gainwell in on third down because he can pass block a little better than the other guys. I'm fine with that. I just hope we don't get too far away from what Swift did, because even if a team is planning for a guy like DeAndre Swift, you know that guy can still have a major impact on this team. And going into this game with the Bucs, you want to make sure that you don't handcuff yourself against the Bucs team that is good. They're not a great team. They're a good team. Defensively, the Bucs are not a team that has been great against the pass. They're very good against the run, are the Bucs defense, but they're not as good against the pass. And Swift is just as good as Kenneth Gainwell at receiving the ball. So that's kind of how I look at the situation with the Eagles with the latest injury report. All right, before we get the break, before we get to Christopher Vannini from The Athletic, I want to touch on really quick also, for those of you who did not see the Phillies news earlier today. So the Phillies made an interesting move today. And me and Mike Gill were talking about this earlier on the Sports Bash today on 97.3 ESPN about how the Phillies are calling up Orion Kerkering from AAA. Now, the significance of this is they didn't just call him up. They removed Junior Marte from the 28-man roster, and they removed Drew Ellis from the 40-man roster. So that means that this guy is someone the Phillies might think about having long-term, not just for a quick couple innings here. Now, for those who don't know, Kerkering is not specifically a guy that is going to come up here and start any games, all right? He is a reliever, but he has shot up from the lowest level of the minor leagues, Clearwater, all the way up to AAA this year. If you go with all of the games, all levels, he has 49 appearances this year. In the 53 innings of 49 appearances, he has 79 strikeouts. He is a flamethrower. He is a guy who just goes out and just churns out strikeouts. And I find this strategy very fascinating because I told Mike Gill earlier today on the Sports Bash, I said, this reminds me of years ago when the Angels brought up Francisco Rodriguez, also known as K-Rod, for that team that went and won the World Series that year. And he only pitched in 5 games for the end of the year. Same thing with David Price in 2008, 6 years later. David Price was that young flamethrower that people didn't know exactly who he was coming out of the bullpen. And David Price and Francisco Rodriguez both only appeared in 5 games before the postseason, and they became huge parts of those teams' playoff runs. What if Orion Kerkering could be the Phillies' version of that guy this year? He certainly could be. I am not going to put it, I'm not going to dismiss it. I think there's a strong possibility that this young man, if he comes up and pitches well enough, could be a part of this postseason run. And it's something to watch for this weekend with the Phillies and the Mets series. And you look at the Phillies' final games. They got tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday against the Mets. Then they got the 3 games against the Pirates, and then 3 more games against the Mets. So you've got 9 more games. If this guy gets into at least 4 of those games, let's say, and shows you that he's got something to offer, this could be your new secret weapon coming out of the bullpen for the Phillies postseason. All right, coming up, we will get to your text at 609-403-0973. We got my football picks a little bit later in the show. College football tomorrow, NFL on Sunday. Eagles play Monday night, so we will start it off. Chris Vannini from The Athletic covers college football. He will join me next on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a football Friday night.
It's Notre Dame football on 97.3 ESPN. Listen every Saturday as the Fighting Irish take on the nation's best football programs.
Hi, Notre Dame fans. This is Paul Burmeister. Join me, Notre Dame great Ryan Harris, and Tony Simeone this Saturday as your Fighting Irish take the field against the Buckeyes from Ohio State, right here on your home for Notre Dame football.
Listen this Saturday to Notre Dame football on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means, wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Boom, 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 boom. Nissan has a car for every driver who wants more. More action. More fun. More guts. More head turns. More adventure. More electric. At Nissan, more is all we do.
Consumer Cellular's award-winning customer support is 100% based in the U.S., and you are 100% based in the U.S. That's something you have in common with Consumer Cellular's customer service. Consumer Cellular's customer service likes pizza, and you like pizza. You want a free month of service, and we want to give you one. We obviously can't wait to hear from you. Visit consumercellular.com/free month and enter code FREEMONTH to get your second month free. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Promotion is subject to terms and conditions.
Your palace awaits. Caesars Palace Online Casino is now live. Download today and register using code RADIOLAUNCH. New users get a $10 sign-up bonus, a 100% deposit match up to $1,000, and 2,500 reward credits after wagering $25. Must be 21 and physically present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or West Virginia. Minimum wagering within 7 days required to unlock bonuses. Full terms and wagering requirements at CaesarsPalaceOnline.com/promos. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In West Virginia, all games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly.
Attention business owners. This is John Souza, CEO of ERTC.com. The Employee Retention Tax Credit Program provides up to $26,000 per W-2 employee. If you're confused about the program, stop right now before it's too late. Don't fall for false promises and risk your business. All ERTC companies are not the same. The bottom line, there's no such thing as guaranteed eligibility, and being innovative with tax filings can lead to an audit. At ERTC.com, we won't mislead you to attest to your own eligibility. At ERTC.com, everything is done in-house by expert CPAs, and there's no cost to get started. With the ERTC.com Fast Track Refund Program, you may qualify to get your refund in as soon as 48 hours. Get started today at ERTC.com.
Get your free refund information now. 800-200-4230. 800-200-4230. That's 800-200-4230.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette, excludes fire sales.
In today's market, so many dealers are selling at or even above MSRP.
But Bennett Chevrolet isn't like most dealers. We're still selling new vehicles at GM supplier employee prices. Yes, you pay what employees pay. We got famous selling new vehicles at GM supplier employee prices and by giving you all the rebates. That's right. Unlike other dealers at Bennett, you get both. And right now you'll save even more with available 0% financing. But wait, it gets better. Bennett is paying an incredible $1,000 minimum for any trade towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $8,000 for total junk. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not by trying to sell you more. So there's no pressure, haggles, or hassles. Just pure joy. So come on, find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet in Egg Harbor Township and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on
Here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN. It's a busy college football weekend. We got a triple header tomorrow right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile live powered by First Bank of Seattle. Florida State versus Clemson coming up at noon. Then at 3:30, we'll bring you Alabama versus Ole Miss in the nightcap. Notre Dame and Ohio State. Getting those games and more. Joining us right now on the phone line, Chris Vannini. He covers the college football landscape over at The Athletic. Also check out the Until Saturday podcast network with him and all of his college football teammates as they cover college football year-round for The Athletic. He joins me right now here on 97.3 ESPN. Chris, welcome in. How you doing today?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you jumping on. So before we get to anything else, let's get the obligatory Coach Ryan Colorado question out of the way here, right? So we know that this is the biggest topic in sports right now. I mean, there are people who don't really care about college football who are caring about Colorado. What is a realistic expectation for a Colorado team without Travis Hunter tomorrow?
I mean, look, they're a 21-point underdog. I think that's probably a fair number. Colorado is certainly a lot better than I expected, than a lot of other people expected, but it is still a flawed team in many ways in terms of protecting the quarterback, stopping the run, and stuff like that. And I expect a team with elite talent like Oregon will probably take advantage of it. Travis Hunter being out obviously is a big loss. He's a dynamic player on both sides of the ball. So it's a tough hurdle for Colorado. But look, they've been proving people wrong already, so I wouldn't be necessarily surprised if they do it again.
For you, what part of their success has been the biggest surprise for you as someone who covers college football 24/7? Is it the way Coach Sanders is doing what he's doing? Is it the crazy turn of the roster? Is it the way Shedeur Sanders has performed at the FCS level? Like, what for you has been like the most eye-popping part of it?
I mean, the first part to me is the organization. This is a team that most of these guys have never played together before, and they go on the road to the first game against TCU. They commit, I think, one procedural penalty, and they were on top of things. You compare that to other teams that can't stop doing false starts and stuff. And then the other part is Shedeur Sanders. He was like a 3-star recruit coming out of college. He goes to the Jackson State. We hadn't seen him compete against the best. Even in high school, he was a private school quarterback in Texas, so he never competed against the best. So we didn't totally know what to make of him. But that dude is tough. That dude is very, very good, a lot better than we thought. And he's been running for his life behind kind of a struggling offensive line. So Shedeur Sanders, a lot more legit than I thought.
Chris, when you think about they're in the Pac-12, I know a lot of people out there are kind of like, they don't even understand what's even going on with the Pac-12. With Colorado leaving next year, the Pac-12 going away, we are seeing some of the best quarterbacks in the entire country all in the Pac-12. Colorado versus Oregon's got Bo Nix on the other side. We got Penix up there at Washington, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams at USC. I mean, how crazy is it that the Pac-12's got the sun coming down on it, and these quarterbacks are just throwing howitzers everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I said coming into the year, I said the Pac-12 is going to be the most exciting conference in the country this year. You knew it was going to be a good league because of all those quarterbacks, especially compared to the SEC, which does not have good quarterbacks this year. And you've seen it play out. You could make the case that the Pac-12 quarterbacks are the top 3 Heisman candidates right now between Caleb Williams and Penix and Shedeur Sanders. And, Bo Nix is really good. Dante Moore, the 5-star freshman at UCLA, has looked good. Cam Rising at Utah hasn't even played yet this year because he's been injured. Just there is so much good quarterback talent in this conference. So much of it transfers as well. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, transfer guys. And it's just really kind of sad that the league finally gets to this moment. 8 top 25 teams, great quarterbacks, and it's the last year of the league.
Chris, I want to flip it over back east for a moment because there are a lot of people who are Penn State fans in this area. And I got to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of their quarterback, Aller. I'm almost wondering if is there too much hype with the guy because, I'm watching a couple of their games this year and I'm like, I thought this guy was supposed to be like the next fill in the blank guy. And I feel like he's been above average. Is that fair?
Yeah, he's been okay. He's missed some throws you'd expect him to make, but he's also made some throws, especially in that West Virginia game where you can see it. You can see the 5-star talent there. You can see why this guy gets a lot of hype. He played a little bit last year. I think part of it is him just kind of getting used to being the starting quarterback and everything that comes with it. It's also a Penn State team that can run the ball very well and has a very, very good defense. So he's not going to be asked to throw for 400 yards to win him a game very often. So I think it's been a bit up and down, but it is early, and you'd expect him, a young guy, to get better as the year goes on.
When you think about overall the Big Ten, I mean, everyone knows Ohio State. They're playing tomorrow against Notre Dame. Michigan, they are the team that people think could go back to the college football playoff. Where does Penn State fall in that hierarchy?
Look, I think Michigan and Ohio State both have question marks, so I think that probably bodes well for Penn State. I mean, Michigan is 3-0. They're number 2 in the country, but they haven't played anybody, and they're not going to play anybody for quite a while, honestly, maybe until the Penn State game. So, they're a very hard team to judge. They're also 0-3 against the spread this year, Michigan is. So that's kind of, you're not totally sure yet. Ohio State's got a new quarterback. They didn't look good against Indiana that first game. They started out kind of sluggish against Western Kentucky, but then poured it on. You could see the talent that they have there, especially at receiver. Ohio State, this weekend, Notre Dame, we're really going to see for real, does this Ohio State team have the weapons to get back to the Big Ten, to get over Michigan, to get over Penn State? I think right now you could put all 3 of those teams right next to each other, but it's because none of them have really played any top teams yet, and they may not until they play each other.
We're talking with Chris Vannini, covers college football for The Athletic, at Chris Vannini on Twitter. Also check him out on the Until Saturday podcast platform from The Athletic, where they cover college football all year long. Chris, mentioned Ohio State. Let's hit on that Ohio State Notre Dame game. This feels like the ultimate, team versus talent, because Ohio State's got all of the 5-star talent guys, but Notre Dame looks like the better football team with that one big star, that being Sam Hartman. So what can people expect to see? Let's say people haven't watched a lot of either one of these teams this year. When that game comes on tomorrow night around 7:30 is the kickoff, what should people expect to see?
I know everybody knows about Sam Hartman and the start he's off to a quarterback, but I really want to see how Notre Dame runs the ball. They have the leading rusher in the country so far. Ohio State has been prone sometimes to getting beat up inside against Michigan. They've been prone to giving up the big play. They actually have not this year allowed a play longer than 40 yards yet, which might be a sign of improvement for Ohio State's defense there. And then offensively, can Ohio State stretch the field with Kyle McCord at quarterback? Can Marvin Harrison get downfield? He's already got 2 catches over 70 yards this year. Can he get that on a stingy Notre Dame defense? So there are questions here. Can Ohio State stop the big play? Can they stop the run? And can Ohio State stretch the field?
What do you think about this Ohio State defense? Because I feel like, to me, the defense is the part of everyone keeps talking about Kyle McCord, but I don't think enough people talked about Ohio State's defense. Tell me about what you're seeing from them.
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. Was that Ohio State's defense?
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, they've been stingier than they have been in the past. They play a Western Kentucky team that puts up a lot of points, puts up a lot of yards, and they were able to hold that defense completely in check. So I think that's a positive there. Again, can Ohio State stop the big play? That was something they really had a problem with in the last couple of years. They've done well against it so far, and Notre Dame's obviously going to try to stretch the field against them.
Let's head over to the top of the college football day. Florida State, Clemson. I'm fascinated by this game, Chris, because Florida State was the team that just completely handled LSU. the first weekend of the season. And Clemson, well, they're not Clemson anymore from my eyeballs. So, can Florida State go in the Death Valley and, for lack of a better term, deal a death blow to Clemson's season?
Well, they're favored by 2.5 points, and I think they will do that. Clemson hasn't looked like the same Clemson we've had in a while. Florida State looks really explosive. They got really big wide receivers, can put up a lot of points. They almost blew it against Boston College last week, but they are going to be favored. And I think Florida State looks like a team, if they can compete for the national championship, this is the game where they're going to kind of show it.
What is the issue with Clemson? Like, why is Clemson in this situation, Chris?
Well, it's a combination. They're recruiting better than they have in a long time. Part of the difference is that they just don't have the otherworldly quarterback. You don't have a Trevor Lawrence, a Deshaun Watson type of guy at quarterback. Cade Klubnik, former 5-star guy, hasn't quite been that for them this year. And so part of it is just simply they used to have, number one guys at quarterback, and they don't right now. And they don't have the same quality of stuff at wide receiver either.
Chris, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the Alabama-Ole Miss game. That's the middle game of our triple header tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. Is this the year that Lane Kiffin gets Nick Saban, or is some of this stuff with Alabama smokescreens? Because I know having a basic, what was like a 2-3 hour rain delay against USF last Saturday is definitely not ideal to playing good football. But is Alabama smokescreens here? Or does Lane Kiffin have a real shot at taking down the giant Nick Saban?
I mean, I think they've got a shot. I wouldn't call it a smokescreen. I mean, I think that was the worst performance we've ever seen from Alabama against under Nick Saban last week. I mean, they had to go down to the wire against USF, a team that won one game last year. They have no quarterback. They have no offensive line. They don't have the skill guys. And so, if you're going to beat Alabama, this is the time to do it. Ole Miss looks better. They look better on defense. Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss, is the former defensive coordinator at Alabama, so he's got a sense of that personnel. So, I mean, we've seen Lane Kiffin cut it close with Nick Saban before. We've seen him also get blown out, when he goes for a 4th down a million times. So that's going to be one of the most interesting games of the weekend, and a weekend that's got a ton of games. If Ole Miss wins that game, you're going to have everybody declaring this is the end of Nick Saban and the dynasty. And I'm sure Lane Kiffin will do some trolling as well if that happens, if they win.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin is one of the best social media follows out there as well. Speaking of social media follows, give Chris Vannini a follow on the Twitter X platform at Chris Vannini. Check out all of his coverage of college football with The Athletic. And don't forget about the Until Saturday podcast platform for your college football coverage year-round with Chris Vannini and the team over at The Athletic. Chris, appreciate you jumping on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So let's go back and hit on what Chris was talking about right there. He mentioned about that. He's right. The Alabama game was really bad. It was the worst performance we've seen from a Nick Saban team since he's been at Alabama. The reason why I asked if it's a smokescreen or not is, and Chris and I didn't have a lot of time, so I don't want to go back and forth too much with him, was because during that game, it looked like that was supposed to be the game. All right, let me backtrack for a minute. That was supposed to be the game that Alabama was going to try out a completely new quarterback and a completely new, it was so much of a different quarterback situation that they literally told the guy who started the week before, you're not playing this week at all. They sent out there the Notre Dame transfer to go out there. Because remember, let me backtrack for a second. The offensive coordinator for Alabama is Tommy Rees, the former offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He played quarterback there. He was coaching there. Now he's at Alabama. Tyler Buckner transferred to Alabama with the idea that he was going to compete for the starting job. Jalen Milroe won the job coming out of the preseason. The Alabama team has not been consistent or dynamic offensively. They've had little splash moments here or there, but they have not been great. The University of South Florida, which is a much lesser football team from top to bottom than Alabama, was supposed to be the test case for Tyler Buchner and the Alabama offense, to the point where Jalen Milroe was not even listed as the number 2 quarterback for that game. It was actually the 3rd string quarterback. Ty Simpson was actually listed as the backup and came into the game at one point for Tyler Buchner against USF. USF has one of the worst pass defenses in all of college football. So the working theory going into the game was Tyler Buchner's going to have an opportunity to sling the ball all over the field and show people that he should be the starter. The absolute opposite happened in the game. Alabama looked horrible, as Chris Vannini put out there. So now they're going back to Jalen Milroe again, after he didn't even get a look at the field last week. This is now an Alabama team whose 2 wins this year have been against South Florida and Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee, not even on the same level as Alabama. And Middle Tennessee was 20 out of 22 of their starters were brand new. So you knew Alabama was going to crush them. Then you had the Texas game. You thought, well, Texas is coming to Alabama. It'll be a close game, but Alabama should win the game. Texas will make it close. Texas didn't just make it close. They won the game by 10. Then Alabama says, all right, we got to go leave Tuscaloosa. We've been here for 2 weeks. We're going to hit the road. We're going to get ourselves situated after the loss. We're going to get an easy game against South Florida, beat up on them, and come back home. Well, the rain did more. There was more offense with the rain down there in Florida than there was on the field because Alabama won 17-3. Now they're coming back home to play an Ole Miss team. Former Alabama coach Lane Kiffin is now the head coach of Ole Miss. And Lane historically has given Alabama a lot of problems. So can the Alabama team that is not as talented as years past handle what Lane Kiffin is bringing this week? Because if they don't, the schedule does not get any better for Alabama. They got 2 straight road games after tomorrow. And then their home schedule versus Arkansas, versus Tennessee, versus LSU. And by the way, at Kentucky the week after that. Alabama's schedule does not get any easier after Ole Miss. The only maybe so-called simple game on that schedule is if you believe Alabama is as good as you think they are, maybe Mississippi State and Arkansas don't present a huge challenge for them. This is a huge game tomorrow. And if Ole Miss can make Alabama sweat this game out or potentially beat them, it's going to make Nick Saban reconsider a lot of things down there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. All right, coming up on the other side, I'll give you my thoughts and picks for the football weekend. Also, I'll give you some final thoughts on the NFL this Sunday. By the way, we have a triple header of NFL games on Sunday as well on 97.3 ESPN. Sunday's NFL matchups include Jets versus Patriots. Coverage begins at 12 o'clock following Billy Schwein in the locker room on Sunday. Then the 4:25 game, Cowboys and Cardinals. And the Sunday night football is Steelers and Raiders, all part of we got 6 football games this weekend for you on 97.3 ESPN. So we got you covered all weekend long as well on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle.
It's college football on the Gridiron Network, and we're headed to Death Valley for an ACC battle as Florida State comes to town to take on the Clemson Tigers. The Noles have an explosive offense led by quarterback Jordan Travis and his big target out wide, Johnny Wilson. Clemson has a defense that could stop you cold. The Florida State Seminoles and the Clemson Tigers live from Death Valley Saturday on the Gridiron Network.
It's College Football Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at noon.
Celebrate the rich history and traditions of the Barnegat Bay area with the 41st Annual Old Time Barnegat Bay Decoy and Gunning Show, Saturday, September 23rd and Sunday the 24th. Sponsored by the Ocean County Board of Commissioners and the Ocean County Department of Parks and Recreation. Over 250 exhibitors displaying and selling items like decorative and working decoys, hunting and fishing supplies, hunting guide services, and more. At 2 locations, Tip-Seaman County Park and the Tuckerton Seaport, all located in Tuckerton, New Jersey. See you there. Free shuttle buses and parking.
A Rottweiler named Whiskey with hours to live brought back to full health. A terrier named Snoopy, paralyzed in all 4 legs, who ran and played again within months. These dogs are known as Marty's Miracles. Dogs brought back to health by Dr. Marty Goldstein.
I've helped countless dogs thrive with one simple concept. Your dog needs a high-meat diet similar to what their ancestors ate in the wild.
Called the Miracle Worker by Forbes magazine, he's now created a premium dog food for you called Nature's Blend. It's the easiest way to support your dog's easy digestion, nourished skin, playful energy, and most importantly, their healthy, full life. For a limited time, save up to 54% off Nature's Blend and get free premium dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511.
I'm so confident your dog will love it. Your order is backed with a 90-day guarantee.
All pets are unique. Your pet's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Attention business owners. This is John Souza, CEO of ERTC.com. The Employee Retention Tax Credit Program provides up to $26,000 per W-2 employee. If you're confused about the program, stop right now before it's too late. Don't fall for false promises and risk your business. All ERTC companies are not the same. The bottom line, there's no such thing as guaranteed eligibility, and being innovative with tax filings can lead to an audit. At ERTC.com, we won't mislead you to attest to your own eligibility. At ERTC.com, everything is done in-house by expert CPAs, and there's no cost to get started. With the ERTC.com Fast Track Refund Program, you may qualify to get your refund in as soon as 48 hours. Get started today at ERTC.com.
Get your free refund information now. 800-200-4230. 800-200-4230. That's 800-200-4230.
Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ, the trade man, wants to get you released.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Used car values are declining rapidly. Every mile, every dent, every chipped windshield could be costing you thousands. But AJ, the trade man, has got you covered, even if you owe thousands more than your trade's worth. Then drive home a new Matt Blatt Nissan with 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, and 0% financing on every new Matt Blatt Nissan in stock. Plus, with your job clearing $350 per week, Matt Blatt Nissan wants to approve you with 0 down and 0 interest for 36 months. All backed by Matt Blatt's 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Nissan, because AJ, the trade man, is in need of more trades. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. Unapproved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. 0% for 36 months. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 10/7/2023. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
If your credit card bills have gotten out of hand, call Consolidated Credit now. If you're making the minimum payments, but your balance is just not going down, call Consolidated Credit now. If the interest rates on your credit cards are so high, it will take years to get out of debt. Call Consolidated Credit now. They've helped over 5 million people. They can consolidate your debts into one lower payment, reduce your interest rates, and get you out of debt fast. If you're struggling with credit card debt, call Consolidated Credit now.
Call now, 800-552-6750. That's 800-552-6750. 800-552-6750.
Consolidated Credit Counseling Services Incorporated, 5701 West Sunrise Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33313. Not a loan company licensed by the New York Department of Financial Services and by the Vermont Department of Financial Regulation. Maryland DM 19, Oregon DM 80031. Licensed by Virginia State Corporation. Commission license number DC 32. Establishment of a plan may adversely affect the individual's credit rating or credit scores. Non-payment of debt may be creditors to increase financial charges or collections activity, including litigation.
Hey, if you're thinking about getting the latest iPhone, check this out. With Boost Infinite, you get the latest iPhone every year and unlimited wireless for just $60 a month. Yeah, you get the new iPhone 15 Pro that was just announced. Then again, next year, you get the latest iPhone every year. Boost Infinite. Infinitely better. To learn more, pick up your phone, dial pound 250 and save Boost Infinite. That's pound 250 and save Boost Infinite. Terms apply. After 30 gigabytes, service may be slow. Receive a comparable iPhone model each year with an acceptable trade-in every year. Requires credit qualification and 36-month phone financing agreement.
Hi, it's Pepper DeLuca, inviting you to join me for Thrill of Hope, a very special evening of Christmas music and memories benefiting Ranch Hope. Thursday, November 2nd at the Grove at Centerton, featuring a very special Christmas concert by international singing sensation and Miss America winner Betty Maxwell. Proceeds benefit Ranch Hope's Camp Edge. Ranch Hope has been serving the youth of New Jersey since 1964. This evening is made possible by Heritage Dairy Stores, Atlantic City Electric, Mannington Flooring, CW Services, and Sojo 1049. For tickets and information, visit ranchhope.org.
Now, for Game Night with John.
All right, final segment of the hour. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on 97.3 ESPN. Checking on the text board before we get to the football picks for the weekend. Some final thoughts on the games. By the way, there will be no game night on Monday on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles Radio Network coverage begins at 6 p.m. Then Mel Reese and Mike Quick have all the action at 7 on 97.3 ESPN. I'll be sitting in with Billy Schwein in the locker room this Sunday. Billy Schwein in the locker room broadcasting live from Cedar Sportsbook at Tropicana, Atlantic City. So I'll be sitting in with Billy and Mike Carlin for the 2 hours where I'll be producing and co-hosting with that show. So we'll be hanging out, talking there. So I'll give you my Eagles official pick for the game on Sunday morning exclusively with Billy Schwein in the locker room here on 97.3 ESPN. Right now on the text board, 609-403-0973. Dan from EHC chimes in. He says, Rondé Barber is being honored by Tampa on Monday night. I would love to see the Eagles kick their butts as a little payback from years ago when the Eagles lost the NFC Championship game. That Eagles team should have won the Super Bowl that year, I still believe. And, Dan and EHC. A couple things. One, I think it's a very interesting look back for Dan because the Eagles team that in the year that the Bucs won the Super Bowl, that Bucs team was full of Hall of Fame, right? And when you look back and you see the Bucs won the championship, it doesn't feel as like, at least for me, okay, it doesn't feel as much of a massive like kick in the face. Like to me, looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, losing to Carolina in the conference championship to me was more of a kick in the face than the Bucs. And here's why. Can you even name anyone the Carolina Panthers team who's not named Danny Manning or Jake? And that's my piece. I felt like, at least for me, if you're an Eagles fan, the feeling is always, hey, if we're going to lose to somebody, why don't we lose to somebody who's really good? Like when you lost the Bucs, you lost to the team that won the championship. When you lost to the Panthers, you lost 14-3 against the Panthers team that was a solid, good, but not great defense. There is no reason why you should have lost the Panthers. It was like the entire Eagles team forgot how to play football. Stephen Davis was getting close to the end of his career. Jake Delhomme was a solid NFL quarterback, but nothing special. They had one really good receiver, Steve Smith Jr., and everybody else was solid, not great. And the Panthers defense basically just beat you into submission. You couldn't do anything right. So for me, hindsight being 2020, I always felt like the Panthers' loss in the NFC Championship game was the bigger gut punch than the Tampa loss. Now, I understand what Danny HT is saying. The Tampa loss felt like that was the one that was very shoulda, coulda, woulda. But that entire year, you were fortunate to be where you were. Remember, 2002 was the year that McNabb didn't even play 6 games that year. Remember, that was the AJ Feely year. Feely had to come in, hold the team afloat. They went 4-1 with the backup quarterback. That's how they were able to trade Feely for the draft pick, but later on. And when the Eagles got to the postseason, remember, the Eagles, they manhandled Atlanta in the first round. So you thought going into the Bucs game, it's like, all right, the Bucs defense versus the Eagles. You know, the Eagles got a good defense. The Bucs got a good defense. And you felt, look, we got the better quarterback. We got the better offensive weapons. And then Joe Jurevicius happens. I mean, the one dude nobody expects. The one dude nobody expects to have an impact on the game does. And he basically was their most impactful player in the game. I know Keyshawn Johnson was the one who scored a touchdown in the game, but it felt like the Jurevicius, down in and down out, they were able to go to him. And they basically controlled the game, the entire game. And it felt like the Eagles could do nothing right. And look, you mentioned Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber had a sack in that game. He had, the interception for a touchdown. So he had a Hall of Fame game against the Eagles. And at least for me, I feel a little less angry about the Bucs lost because the Bucs were the team that won the championship. And they had a team of Hall of Famers, Warren Sapp, Rondé Barber, Derek Brooks, John Lynch. I mean, that team was stacked on defense. And offensively, Keyshawn Johnson, he had a major impact on that team getting as far as they did, helping them win a championship. So for me, at least, I never looked at the Bucs game. But listen, I get it. A little revenge. Go down to Tampa, Royal Rondé Barber's night. I'm with you, Danny HT. I just always felt that the Panthers' loss was more of a slap in the face. All right. We got an anonymous texter who texted in at 609-403-073 says, I'm calling it now. Christian Eisen, undrafted free agent out of Rutgers, going to pick off Jalen Hurts on Monday Night Football. It'll be a low-scoring kind of game. I think the Bucs upset the Birds. Well, whether if the Rutgers product gets an interception or not, I think the Eagles win the game. I'm not going to give you my full breakdown for the game right now, but I do think the Eagles win that game. For the simple fact that I think the Eagles are going to be able to control the game a little bit better than Tampa will. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Eagles win in the end. All right. Spent a lot of time talking about the past on this show. Let's get to the present. So far in the year, we are 21-8 on the college football picks. Let's get to some picks here for you really quick. Tomorrow at noon here on 97.3 ESPN, Florida State -2 against Clemson. I just think Florida State's a better team. I think Clemson, they got some real problems offensively. Cole Klubnik is nothing like he was supposed to be as a recruit. I like Florida State to win that game by more than 2. Texas State -17.5 versus Nevada. I think they win by 20 or more against Nevada. Nevada has the 130th pass defense in college football. And Texas State is one of the top 50 offenses in college football with TJ Finley at quarterback. Kansas versus BYU. Give me the over 54.5. Ole Miss versus Alabama. Give me the over 55.5. Oregon versus Colorado. Give me the over 70.5. I see a lot of scoring happening tomorrow in college football. Stanford, give them the cover of the 12.5 at home against Arizona. Also in the NFL, Pats, Jets under 37. Jags cover the 9.5 against Houston. Bills and Washington over 43.5.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Dave Klemick joins me in the studio.
All right, really quick. Let's get to finish up because I totally lost track of time. I talked way too long about the Eagles from 2002 and 2003. One of my picks of the weekend also is the Chargers Vikings at the over 54. And here's the reason why I have unders in the NFL and overs in college football. Just really quick before we get out of here. In college football, this is usually the week that teams have enough tape that they can make adjustments and start exploding offensively. And when you look at the game, Kansas and BYU, these are two teams that can score points. They're not teams that play great defense. Ole Miss and Alabama. I think Ole Miss is going to try to force Alabama into a track meet. And if Alabama is going to win, they're going to have to keep pace with Ole Miss. I think Jackson Dart and Ole Miss is going to try to score a ton of points in this game. Colorado versus Oregon, two teams don't play a lot of defense. I think Oregon wins the game. I think Colorado gets their first loss of the year, but I think Shedeur Sanders and Colorado are still able to score a ton of points in this game. So that's why I like the over 70. I see Colorado, Oregon being like a 45-28 kind of game. I'm looking at Ole Miss, Alabama. I'm looking at that as like a 35-30 kind of game. And I'm looking at Kansas, BYU. The winner of that game probably winning like 37-30 or something like that. So that's why I see those games being so high scoring because, these are teams that have already shown you that they're not elite defensively. And any team's not elite defensively, as the year goes on, offenses start picking up. And then Stanford's way better than 12.5 at home. I don't understand this line at all. I feel like this is an example of the odds makers, just trying to, put a number on the board and help to get bets from those people. I feel like it's a little bit of a disingenuous move by the odds makers. Look, either they're geniuses and they know something that I don't, which is certainly possible. I'm not going to act like I know everything, but what I do know is that Stanford is a way better team than people realize this year. And then back to the NFL, Pats and Jets is a matchup of two really good defenses. The Pats are a team that limited the Eagles' offense, slowed down the Dolphins, and they're going to dominate the Jets realistically. And I think the Patriots win this game, honestly. I don't know if the Jets can win it. The only way the Jets can win is if they turn Mac Jones into a turnover machine. I got the Jags winning by 10 or more points against Houston because I think last week's game, Andy Reid owns Doug Peterson. I don't know what it is, but every time Doug and Andy play, Andy has beaten him every single time, and he's beaten him usually in a way that's pretty decisively. So I think that's what that 17-9 last week was about Jacksonville. I think the offense wakes up this week. Trevor Lawrence will have a much better game. Calvin Ridley, Travis Etienne, all those guys. And Houston's just not a good team this year. Bills in Washington. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think Sam Howell and Josh Allen are going to be chucking the ball all over the field. 43.5 feels way too low for this game. I know historically these two teams have a lot of talent on defense, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I think no Von Miller for the Bills is going to start haunting them as the year goes on. And I think that Washington's defense got exposed a bit last week against Denver and the week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. It's 43.5. So I'm thinking this game is probably something like a 30-24 kind of game. And again, 30 plus 24 is 54. That's about 11 points over the over-under for Bills and Washington. Finally, as I said, Chargers, Vikings. Chargers defense is not good. Chargers offense is good. Vikings defense, it's okay. Vikings offense got a lot of firepower. This feels like the ultimate game of Kirk Cousins goes for 350. Herbert goes for 400. It comes down to the fourth quarter. Whatever team commits the least amount of turnovers wins the game. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be off the wall. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for watching on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Appreciate you guys tuning in for the show. Again, so far this year, we are 21-8 on the college football, 14-9 on the NFL. Although we did go 3-0 last night on the NFL picks. So that's always a plus as well. Again, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Appreciate everybody tuning in as you always do. for the YouTube audience only, I will do a YouTube exclusive preview show that you can check out before the Eagles game, because I will not be on the radio that day on 97.3 ESPN. There it is. I will be on 97.3 ESPN this Sunday with Locker Room with Billy Schwein. I'll be co-hosting with him and Mike Carlin as we are live over at Caesar Sportsbook inside Tropicana in Atlantic City. So stay tuned for that. I'm Josh Hennig. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate everybody who watches on my YouTube channel. We are building toward bigger and better things. Things are going to, keep growing with what I'm doing on social media, with the writing for 97.3 ESPN's website, with this show, and all of you who are here on the ground floor of my journey. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everybody.